I'm going to show an unusual push-up today I call the Rebound push-up. And this push-up is a great beginner exercise that teaches and illustrates a kind of a guiding principle I use when training myself and my clients, okay? And this guiding principle is, can your body adequately absorb the forces and create the force it needs to do to meet your life's demands? And it doesn't matter who you are, that principle applies to you. Let me take two extremes to give you an example. Let's take a pro football player. That pro football player, he's on the field of play, he's running the ball, he's got the ball, he's a running back, and every step he takes onto the ground, his body absorbs that force from the ground, and then he propels his body, he creates force. So he's constantly absorbing and creating force as he runs. Now, if all of a sudden someone comes out of nowhere and blindsides him and smacks him, can his body absorb that force correctly, stay on his feet, and then create force to run forward? So he's constantly absorbing force and creating force. They work together, okay? Now, if his body cannot meet that demand, either his body takes a beating, it ends up getting injured, or he doesn't meet the performance requirements he's trying to produce, all right? Now, let's take the other end of the spectrum. Let's take great-grandma. Great-grandma is 90 years old. Most of her friends have passed away. But she's got a pretty good alignment and always moved pretty well. And she can actually bend over and pick up great-grandson and pick him up and carry him if she chooses to. Now, when she goes to pick up great-grandson, and right when she grabs him under the armpits and starts to lift him, her body has to absorb that force. And if it can absorb it adequately, and then she creates force to pick up great-grandson and hold great-grandson, then she is adequately using her body to absorb force and create force to pick up the great-grandson. Now, her peers, most of them have to sit in a rocking chair and sit there and hold great-grandson. But this lady, this unusual lady, can actually bend over and pick up the little boy. Okay, so that is absorbing force and creating force. They work together. I end up looking smarter than I actually am to many of my clients, because here's what happens. They end up getting injured, or they're not performing at the level they want, and they go see a doctor, they get a pill, they go to a therapist, they go to some other trainer, and they try to piecemeal the issues they're trying to work at. Let's say you got a bad knee. Well, if you go to a therapist and they just work on that knee and try to give you some exercises and work semi-globally, let's say they work the hip and the quad and the back of the leg and even the foot a little bit. So let's say you got a better therapist who's looking at it kind of semi-globally, all right? Well, that's great. Let's say the knee starts to feel better. But did that therapist just teach you how to absorb forces coming into your body and then create forces? No, they didn't. They failed at that. Okay, most fail at that. There's probably some therapists that do this work as well. Now, if you have a knee surgery, what has that done? You know, structurally it kind of fixed the knee. But when you got off of that table, did it teach you, after having surgery, did it teach your nervous system now how to adequately absorb force and create force? The deficiency you probably had that created the knee injury in the first place. So all these modalities, you know, pills, surgeries, chiropractor, massage, most fitness training, all these kind of things, they're piecemealing and they're missing the bigger picture. And when you piecemeal it like that, they end up kind of being meaningless bullshit because they don't address the number one factor that affects your body's ability to move and not get hurt and have high performance, and that is to absorb force and create force. So I'm going to show this beginner exercise that I like doing with people called the Rebound push-up. and it's going to teach you the beginning layers of this whole concept of absorbing force and creating force. The exercise looks like this. And if the average person saw me doing it, they wouldn't think much of the exercise. It looks fairly easy. But I'm doing something very specific internally. As I fall onto the wall, I fall forward onto the wall, tipping myself onto it, and right when my hands hit the wall, I have to absorb that force. So many people, even better athletes that are young, when they absorb the force, they get rigid and they hit it like a ton of bricks instead of absorbing it, okay? So what I want to do is I want to organize my body so when I fall into the wall, I absorb the force by relaxing just a little bit, let that energy, that force from the wall go through my hands all the way to my feet. It bounces off the ground off my feet and then back into it, rebounding me backwards. So as I push off, I also have this fascia strength, elasticity, because I let the force go through my body rather than just stopping it like a ton of bricks by tightening my upper body when I fall onto the wall. Okay? Against the wall, and you start working this. And you get so, again, you're thinking, the force comes from the wall into my hands, through my shoulders, down to my feet, and my feet rebound back and I push off the wall. Just like this. And get so you do, every rep is like an opportunity to figure out how to get that force down to your feet. And as I push off, sure, I'm using my regular old muscles, my pushing muscles, but what you're going to feel as you get better at absorbing the force to your feet, you will just spring off like it's effortless. You feel like you're bouncing a ball against the wall. You have to use very little chest and shoulder muscles because you have all that elasticity doing the work, okay? When I go down to hit the wall, my heels come off the ground a little bit and my feet get loaded. That creates that spring. I push off just like that. And get so you can just do them and they start to feel effortless. Very little effort from your bench press muscles, your chest and your shoulders. Okay? Now, you could do I do a little workout with this where I go from one exercise to the next for about 3 minutes. Do 30 seconds of the rebound push-up. After 30 seconds, hop on 2 feet. What I'm doing here by hopping on 2 feet is kind of prepping my nervous system for the next set to include my feet when I do the rebound push-up. I'm connecting this hand to foot connection, so when I fall onto the wall, that energy goes to my feet and it bounces back and helps me push off. Okay? So that is the rebound push-up. With that workout, I would do like 3 minutes. 30-second wall push-ups, 30-second hopping, go back and forth till you get to 3 minutes, and it's like every time you get done doing a 30-second hop set, you go back to doing the rebound push-up against the wall, and you'll feel more elasticity, more fascia strength pushing you off. So that is my beginner exercise to teach that great principle of absorbing force and creating force. If you like this video, go ahead and please subscribe. Pass this along to a friend. It can be very helpful at transforming the body to heal and to get higher performance for athletes and people that are competitive.